crafty friends, it's Sharon Luska here from My Crafty Greetings, and we're going to do a Scrappy Tales video today. I have hauled out my homemade stamp-a-doohickey thing because my platform is too small. This Spread Your Wings 6x8 stamp, you can get it and anything else that you so desire at Scrappy Tales until the 30th of May for the Memorial Day sale, 20% off. That is such an awesome deal. So I've got them all laid out here. I peeled off the butterflies in 1 centimeter. Don't ask me why I did that. But it's what fit on my paper, and I'm just using some Versa Fine black ink. I always get Versa Fine and Versamark messed up. But anyways, my homemade little doohickey tool, I like it because the clear panel here is more flexible, so I can give some good pressure to my stampy stamps. And this is a good amount to stamp up with ink, and my pad's a little bit sticky and dry, but we got the job done. And I just stick it down. That's a magnetic mat in there, but I just stick it down with a little bit of ATG. It pulls off just fine. Would be nice to have a Misty, but alas, one day, saving my pennies. So I wanted to show you watercoloring these, and I've got a few of my items here, the Jane Davenport water barrel brushes. I've got a COTTMAN, and my favorite set, the Jane Davenport Watercolor Brights. I love this set. I have some water here, and I'm doing the two container method. So one's for rinsing the dirties off, and the other one is for getting fresh, clean water. And just remember to dab your brush off after you take it out of the dirty water. If you want to know more about watercoloring and stuff like that for card making, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Just leave a comment down below. Now, I painted this baby up like a kindergartner, and it is not the prettiest butterfly, and it bothered me. So I consulted God's very best artist, Mother Nature, and took a look at her work to see what she has done. And I have to tell you, the majority of the butterflies have very limited colors in them. They are bright, they're brilliant, but they are not like the butterfly I painted. So I decided to figure out how to make some more harmonious butterflies. Now I have these stamped out on Neenah Solar White 80 pound, which is no problem for watercoloring because I am not making an art piece, I'm making a card, and I am not going to be scrubbing and shading and doing all kinds of that craziness. I'm just going to be getting my color down. So one of the things you may have noticed about my palette is that I've got mid-tone blue, light blue, and a dark blue, and then a green. And I also have black and white on the side. And what I was doing is just basically sticking to the different intensities, meaning how much white or how much black there is in the blue, and then picking one color that's beside that on the color wheel, or the rainbow, if you will. So where green is on the one side of blue or purple's on the other side of the blue, I've chosen to go with the green to make this particular butterfly. And you can see, although I'm making the top and the bottom wings of the butterfly different tones and somewhat different colors, I'm really keeping them close so that they're harmonious and nice to look at. And this is where you see me adding the lighter blue with the darker blue. Now the darker blue is actually a pre-made color that's the mid-tone blue mixed with some black. That's how you get navy blue. And to knock it down just a little bit or to darken up the mid-tone blue, that's why I'm mixing those two colors together. And I'm just approximating shapes over the beautiful artwork that Sabrina's done for these butterflies. She's drawn them so perfectly, and you don't have to follow the lines that she's drawn in. As a matter of fact, it's probably even best if you just ignore them and paint your butterfly in from there. So you can see I've got it done. Now I wanted to show you this quickly. You're probably wondering what that plastic was underneath that I was painting on. I use old fold shut packaging, and when the paint has dried, I can shut them and I can reuse that color palette for something else if I want. Or I take it on the go and just take a water barrel brush with me and some paper towel and whatever piece I'm painting, and I can just go to it. So here, this butterfly here, I have taken a purple. I only had the one purple, but I had a bright pink, and then I've got my white, and I'm also going to be using some blue, And we're not going to be actually using the black because when we use the dark navy blue, there's a little tiny bit of black in that. But you can see how I'm taking these and picking parts of the butterfly and then also just kind of making a gradient of the different colors going from the outside of the wings in or the inside of the wings out. And then I also decided that I like the look of differentiating the top wings from the bottom wings. But you don't want too much craziness going on when you're painting butterflies if you want them to look nice and harmonious on your card. Now, the other thing you might want to consider when you're painting them is what color background you're going to be adding them to. So if you're going to be doing a card that has let's say a green background, maybe you want to do something that is more harmonious with green. These two butterflies, I already did pick out the paper that I was going to be adding them to, and yeah. So these claws here, I washed them out. When you're cleaning off your brush, don't throw them in the garbage. Give them a little wash so the extra paint's off of there, and you're good to go. Now, I wanted to say these could be stepped up quite a bit, and there's always stuff in our craft rooms that we can use to step it up. I have some mica paints here. It's Tombow or something like that, and they weren't expensive, and I'm going to show you why. It is a little thin wafer of mica paint, and I also had some metallic markers there I wanted to show you, and of course they weren't great because everything looks silver over the top. I also got myself out some of my shimmer brushes, which if you're priming them, don't prime them over top of your work and make a big bloopy mess like I did. If you take it off to the side or over a scrap piece of paper, at the very least protect your work. That's my point with this. But you can see the shimmer. I still was able to save this no problem. Now the nice thing about these watercolor shimmer paints is when you have like more solid looking colors, you can actually mix them. So I have taken the green here and I'm mixing it with the bright blue so that I can get a nice teal color for the bottom of those wings. Is it teal or is it aqua? I think it's probably aqua color. A nice aqua color. Now I'm not painting it directly over the black lines that Sabrina's design work has made, the stamp from Scrappy Tales. I'm not painting over the lines because your mica will actually obscure those lines. And I'm not painting solidly because that will distract from the beauty of your butterfly. What you really want to do is you want to pick portions that you want to have some shimmer to them. And that's going to be eye-catching, much more so than if you paint the entire butterfly in micas. Because when you paint it all in mica, your eye just sees mica. When you paint some that are in color and some that are in mica, you actually get to see the shine and the shimmer. Now, painting it over top of color that you've already laid down in watercolor will also help it keep the intensity of these mica paints. Because if you put them on just plain white paper, I find sometimes it washes them out, makes them too transparent. Now, the other thing you may want to consider before you paint your butterflies is what kind of card base are you going to be attaching them to? What kind of colors will you be using? Is a purple butterfly going to go with the colors you've chosen? Is a blue butterfly going to suit what you've chosen? That's important to know. Now, one other thing, you saw a whole pile of sparkly stuff that I had all lined up for these butterflies. These Spectrum Noir shimmer pens are fantastic for adding detail that is different than mica paint detail. It's going to give the eye something else to look at, and highlighting your white areas with your mica pens makes them extra special, sparkly, and shimmery. You can also go over top of the paint that you've already painted, whether it is a mica paint or a regular watercolor paint, and that's going to add highlight. But use it sparingly. Use it so that it just directs the eye to certain areas of the butterfly. Maybe you may even want to use some glitter. But there also is more that you can do to these butterflies that are going to step them up to the next level. You can also use a jelly roll white pen or whatever your white pen of choice is, and you can add extra spots in the black areas, or you can highlight spots with white outlines. You'll notice that on a lot of the butterflies in nature. sometimes even just little funky shapes, L's or 7s, whatever you want to put on. Now, one more thing that you can do is get out your black Sharpie marker. I would recommend using these instead of your Copics or your Tombow. That way you won't have to worry about clogging the tip with either mica pen or watercolor, and you can just use it haphazardly anywhere you want. These are great extra tools to have in the craft room. Now you can see even adding an extra little bit of thickness to the outside of the edge here, you could change the shape of the bottom of the butterfly or the outside of the wings by adding black. And adding some stripes is one of the things that I love most to do. Just enjoy yourself. Treat it like a little Zentangle session, and pop in a little bit here and a little bit there. Try aligning marks so that you saw the dots that I put across from the dots that were already included, the stripes, one after the other. So here's the difference between the one that has the pen work on it and the one that doesn't. Now I've treated these butterflies to a teardrop shape in the teardrop portions of the butterflies that were already drawn, and I thought that made a really, really special looking finish to it. I also added somewhat of a fancy V or chevron underneath of those teardrops. Any type of shape, whatever it is that you want to do, you go for it. Give them a try and see what can happen. And don't forget, even some well-placed black dots can also make a difference. These butterflies are fantastic because they don't have too much detail. They have exactly the right amount. And even my ugly little kindergarten butterfly, it's something that can be worked on as well and given some more balance and detail. If I strengthen it and give it a stronger look than it already has, even when I can't make up my mind where I need to place my pen, it will make an enormous difference in the look of the butterfly. Just use your imagination, and whenever you see a spot that you think could use a little bit of black, it's only paper. If you colored it and it's not worth keeping, don't even worry about cutting it out. But you can see where the magic wand is. Those are the ones that had the extra treatment versus the ones that didn't. The choice is up to you. So now you've got your butterflies, you have them cut out. Don't forget to go around with your black marker and cover all of those cut edges. And if you want to save your antenna, put some glue on it. Glue will fortify any delicate or very thin cut paper. Now this is the Butterfly Kisses 6x6 paper pad, and of course I make 5x7 cards, so I did a 4x6 sheet of paper, and I'm also cutting a couple little thin strips here because I'm going to show you something in case fussy cutting antenna is not for you. Now if you've got a moderately thick, maybe a 1/16 of an inch thick piece of paper, take it and spray it with some water and then just twist it between your fingers and work it. You'll end up with this nice fine twist that will make great antenna. If you don't want to twist, cut thin black paper and go ahead and just coat it the same way I showed you for coating the other antenna. Once that dries, that will give you great antenna replacement. And you can see those are dry, and that is going to make them nice and strong. So I have this beautiful Fairy Sentiment stamp set, and I'm pulling the I Love You out of it. I also have grabbed the M and the O from the Slimline Pop-Up Birdhouse if you have that in your stash. And I've cut myself a little tiny piece of acetate here. It's just a little tiny strip of junk acetate. It's probably 1/4 inch by about 3 inches across. These are nice big butterflies, and this is going to help hold their wings up. So I've put some Tombow Mono Multi on the body of the butterfly, and then my acetate strip, and then a little bit of Tombow Mono Multi again. I've clipped them together, and I'm standing them in my little pot to let them dry. Now I was motioning that I'd already added Tombow Mono Multi to the MOM, my letters here, and it is dry, so I'm sticking it on just like stickers, and that's going to make it nice and easy to line up and adhere it quite well. I'm trimming down my paper, and I want to make a nice fishtail end to it, but I like to pick a shallow fishtail. And what I do is I actually line my papers up and I follow the guide so that I don't give that kind of middle cut that goes too far. And sometimes I find that the wings end up crooked anyways. So this is a much better way of cutting yourself a fishtail, especially when it's a larger piece of paper and it really shows. So my Tombow Mono Multi's dry, my antennae are dry and nicely fortified to the head of my butterfly, and I'm just going to put some pressure on that so it sticks down. Now I was excited to show this. Most of you have seen these little containers before. This is the baggie from Scrappy Tails, and you can see it completely filled up my container, left me half a bag, and still left me some that I could apply to my card. She's not kidding when she says it's a generous amount of embellishments, and they're on sale for 20% off. They're so cheap, you should get some. Now I'm just taking them and adding them to my card with some glossy accents, and basically whatever the pattern would be is if I flicked some paint across my card is the pattern that I'm following. That makes it easy for laying out sequins or rhinestones or whatever it is that you have. These are just gorgeous, super shimmery. I will have all the products linked below so you can find them easily at Scrappy Tails. And then I also am going to put up a video that shows all of my very favorite products from Scrappy Tails. Now this is one of my favorite products. This fancy rose oval die. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. It's so beautiful. I have some salvage paper that is just scraps of whatever it is that I have. And then the M that I cut out ended up missing one of the top corners because my paper wasn't taped down well enough. So I'm just going to cut the other corners off the M to match rather than wasting more paper cutting M's out. You can see it looks just perfect, doesn't it? So I have my Morning Mist Versifying Clair here. I wanted something a little bit softer because of the colors that we're using on this card, and I've got it on a nice tiny strip, and I'm pre-gluing up my letters again with the Tombow Mono Multi as well as this bumpy background, and it seems everybody worries about how to glue down bumpy backgrounds. This works perfectly. Put a bunch of stuff on the areas that are lumped out, let it dry, and you will be good to go. So here's an easy tip for getting a straight cut across the end if you have not mastered the eyeball cut. Hold it over a piece of paper and use its end as a guide. Now I also forgot to put some Tombow Mono Multi on my ring, and then I just dab a little dot on each of the little dangly pieces that are there. Now here's a fast tip too for making a great slim border around your sentiment without having to get out your paper cutter. Line it up so that it's double the amount showing on one side, and then cut it flush on the opposite side. So you're cutting one end and one side flush, and then when you slide it into place, you'll have the most perfect outline with very little cutting and very little trouble. And I also put my ATG on the back. I look at it first without sticking it down, so upside down so I can see the margins, and then I flip it over and stick it. It's almost like it tells my brain how big a border I need to leave to make it even. So I'm going to set this up and stick it down as well. The Tombow Mono Multi has already dried. And I will set in the rest of my pieces as I go here. Now I wanted to say, if you've made it this far in the video, I sure hope you've subscribed. I try to make sure that I put great content that has lots of hacks, tips, tricks, things that maybe you haven't known, ideas of how to look at things. So if you like my videos, give me a thumbs up. That helps get me shared and will keep me on YouTube, because my journey in this is limited. If I don't make it well with this journey on YouTube in the next year, you may not see me again. But if you would like to see more of my videos, go ahead and take a look at some of the ones in the archive, and do give me a thumbs up, and a comment would be absolutely fabulous too, even if it is just an emoji. It gives my heart such happiness. Now, if you've watched my other videos, you know that I'm a big user of packing foam, and I have wrapped this packing foam in a sheet of two-sided sticky paper. We'll get into that in another video. I just cut myself a slim strip, and what I wanted to show you versus the foam tape is that this makes a nice dimension, but something that sits more flush to your card. Now I've taken an old free marker that I got in a set of something and colored in my antenna. They've already got a dry layer of glue on the back to fortify them, and I'm just adding some ATG to put a little bit of acetate on the back of this butterfly to keep its wings up, and then I'm going to put some Tombow Mono Multi again on the back of this one. So I wanted to sculpt the wings a little tiny bit before I put the card or put this butterfly on the card, and you can see all the shimmer every time I move that around. Isn't that gorgeous? It's tough when I can't show you what I see in real life. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a fabulous Memorial Day weekend. Don't forget the sale's on at Scrappy Tales, and it is Memorial 20, and I'll put all the links down in the drop box below. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you do get some time to craft. Get some cards made, have some fun, and maybe even have some fun with the family. Thanks so much. Bye.